I call to order the April 24th regular meeting of the Los Alamitos Planning Commission. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Riley.
Here.
Vice Chair Sofulcanic, absent. Commissioner Andrade, absent. Commissioner Quilty.
Here.
Commissioner DeBolt.
Here.
Commissioner Gross.
Here.
And Commissioner Globe.
Here. All right, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'm going to open it up to oral communications. If there's anybody in attendance tonight that would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, this would be the time to come forward and do so.
Hello, my name is Debbie Rodriguez. The timing of this meeting is perfect for me. I'm a hairstylist that I have been in business for 37 years, working hard to make my business strong. And I've been dreaming of having my own small salon. I've been renting my own suite at Phoenix Salon Suites. And since September, I've been looking at places to rent in the city of Los Alamitos, since my daughter will be attending McAuliffe and is at LAE right now. With much due diligence, I thought I worked hard. I thought I spoke to many wise people that I know to help mentor me and guide me and try to figure out everything I needed to learn to make the big jump. So I did that. In January, I had spoke to Tracy Shelton regarding a property that I saw for rent. I inquired about that property. She told me that I could put a salon in there because it was facing the street, Cerritos, even though it was in a business complex, that would be allowed as long as I had a spot facing the street. So I took that into consideration, continued to look. I took a leap of faith and decided to choose courage and not my comfort zone. So I did that, and I pulled the trigger on Monday, and I signed a lease. I gave a $5,600 deposit, and after, I also had my friend who's a battalion fire chief in Long Beach come with me to inspect the building as I was there with Tracy, trying to make sure I've covered everything and thought of everything. So with that in mind, I signed the lease, gave my deposit, had many discussions of what the intended use would be, as well as it is in my lease with Tracy and the Burke Company. So as you can imagine, I was excited and excited to get my dream moving. So I came today to start the process of the zoning permits and business licensing, which I, as a small contractor, independent contractor, small business, I've held in different licenses in this city and Seal Beach for the last 17 years. So I thought I understood the process. So when I came today and I got to meet Tom Oliver, and I was devastated to find out I had signed a lease for a property that is not allowed to be a salon. So Tom was nice enough to give me a little wisdom and show me on the zoning map where my business would be allowed and where it was not allowed. So it was very clear that I had hit a wall after committing with the 5-year lease and giving my deposit. I immediately called Tracy and left a message, and she did return my call 15 minutes later, which I was grateful for. I explained the situation briefly. It didn't go as well as I was hoping. She was very condescending to me and a little rough, and I tried hard to change the direction of that and place the ownership on me, that I made a mistake, I guess, and maybe I didn't do all my due diligence that I thought I had, and maybe approached it out of order. So I asked her to work with me on how I could ascend this lease, and was there a possibility I could get out of it, because I can't run a salon where I can't get a zoning permit and license. So I've been in phone contact with her back and forth today. She seems to still not be sure what the owner's willing to do, although it's been 48 hours since I signed my lease. I did contact an attorney today. We're going to work on ascending my lease and getting my money back. But I thought the timing here was perfect for me to come and share my experience, what I'm experiencing in your city. And just FYI, John Riley, your wife Shelby, is my client. I'm her hairdresser. So that's my story, and thank you for listening.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right.
My name is Richard Malley. I'm a long-term resident of Los Alamitos. My business is in Los Alamitos on Howard, and I've been go to Debbie, as a lot of my family members do. And so when she told me she was looking for a spot near McAuliffe, I go by this business area every day. So I turned her on to Tracy, thought she had a deal. And then we find out that, according to Tom, not able to get it. I feel that she was, well, I'll use the word, she was defrauded by this Burke and Tracy Sheldon. And apparently there are 2 other businesses in that location that are also going to be asked to leave because they're not properly fitted for the zone. So I don't know where the city is in on this, but it's not good. It's a black mark on our city, which I take great pride in living here, and I hope we can get something accomplished either at the commission or through the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one else come forward, I will close oral communications. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe I was not at the last regular meeting. Is that correct?
Look on the,
Yeah, that we've had these other meetings in between. I'm like thrown off. Yeah, so I abstain. All right, so that, did we get, that vote's good? Approval of minutes? All right. We have no discussion, no consent calendar, no staff reports. Next item is public hearing. Item 9A, site plan review, Hospital Central Plant at 3832 Catalina Street. My understanding is that they have asked for a continuance on this. Can I get an abbreviated staff report?
Yeah, very quick, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. As you probably read in our staff report, we had made a recommendation for your consideration this evening to continue this matter, date certain, to your May meeting, having to do with some aesthetic related matters associated with the proposed project. We received a letter yesterday, which we emailed out to you shortly after receiving it, in which the medical center, Mr. Clayton, the CEO, has asked for a continuance, basically consistent with staff's recommendation, which we think is a positive, and that they have acknowledged that they would like to revisit the concerns that we brought forth, and to be able to address that and come with a hopefully a more refined and acceptable proposal for your consideration next month. We're prepared this evening if you'd like to have the full presentation. However, we would suggest maybe holding off on that until the May meeting, because there will likely be some changes that we hope you'll be seeing in May. So with that, we would recommend that you open the hearing and then continue that hearing to the May meeting. And Tom and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff this time?
I did ask when I spoke with Tom today to bring the stuff from the one during Michelle Finney's when she was there, and when we approved phase 1 and phase 2 for the hospital changes, to bring this information. I know that not everybody here was on the commission at that time, so I've asked him to also make it available for us if we want to be able to go over and review it at the city level rather than just print up a bunch of copies. That we look and see what they had originally planned and what they're altering on this plan.
It's also on the website, too.
Oh, yeah, on the website.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So with that, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And would anyone like to make a motion for the...
Make a motion to continue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain. I may have a potential conflict on this project, so I'll
Okay, we have
abstain.
4, so we're good. Motion carries. That item is continued. That takes us on to item 10, which is items from the Development Services Director.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, just a couple of items. Again, thank you for your time regarding the zoning text amendments as we've been venturing through that. I think as we reported last meeting, we are working forward on having a complete draft document here in a few weeks. As soon as that's available and we've had a chance to go through it with legal counsel and staff, we will distribute to you hopefully well in advance. We like to have it at least 2 to 3 weeks in advance to the hearing for your consideration. And at this point in time, we are targeting the June commission meeting for a public hearing for consideration of those of that text amendment document. And thank you again for the workshops. We're done with those workshops, I believe, for now. It's been a lot of work over the last couple of years, I know, and hopefully we end up with a document that is something you're proud of with all the work that you all put into that. So again, we'll have that for you in June. I wanted to mention too that with regards to projects, some of the items that I'm sure you've seen in the community, again, the Fairfield Hotel project, it's really at its full height now. I think when we talked about it last month, they were still framing that, but you get a good visual representation of the full height of the building. They're still working on the exterior framing. A tremendous amount of work left, at least a year or more left of construction, but at least now visually, you're probably seeing it at its worst, in my opinion. Framed buildings are at the worst. They're aesthetically a negative, and a lot of people really can't appreciate the value of the architecture and whatnot when it's framed. So hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months, they'll start doing the finish work on that and we'll at least get a better visual of that finished product. You may have noticed the Olson project, the grading activity is well underway. They've backfilled the site and have started the preliminary grading work for the various pads of the attached condo units, and they've also started on their utility connection. So that project's seeing quite a bit of activity right now. And I know I mentioned this last meeting, but again, the Starbucks building continues to make progress. It's fully framed up, and again, you can get a good visual understanding of what's happening with that site, and it's progressing along very well. So those are just a couple of the key projects I wanted to point out to you. Those are the most visual and probably the most talked about within the community, and give you an update on that, and that concludes my comments tonight.
Great. Thank you. And that takes us to commissioner reports. Anything from any commissioners?
We have Serve LaSalle coming up in June 21st to 22nd. That'll be their second year. So anybody who wants to do some volunteer work, go onto the site for Los Alamitos. It's very interesting. I did it last year. This year I'm going to do it with a different organization to Serve LaSalle, but it's a lot of fun. And then I do want to just bring up and say thanks to Commissioner DeBolt during the rezoning and all the work. He brings in a lot of little things that a lot of us might not see. While he doesn't know this, some of us always say if we can't quite find in the code, we can call him, because we know that he reads it every morning when he gets up. But in reality, a lot should go, our hands should go to him, because he identified a lot of little things that help to protect our community in other ways. So the citizens should be grateful to him, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I do too. Thanks, Rob.
And this is terrible to say. You're right on that. When I went on the city council, I was on the city council years ago, and they handed me this big book, which was the municipal code book. And honestly, I sat there and I read. the whole thing. I mean, not word for word, but I mean, I went through it and all that, and learned a lot, and and my memory isn't that good, but I mean, but I can't believe that I did it, but I didn't. That I did do that.
Great. Well, it's appreciated. So,
Yeah, we do
Thanks,
appreciate
Art.
it.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I was regarding the people that were just in here. Two things that I think we ought to, if it's possible, to agendize. One is, I guess, allowable uses along Cerritos. I mean, I had just a brief conversation here, but not to get too deep on this, that we do allow retail uses on that strip, so what's with this? Okay, so I think we need to maybe talk about that as far as allowable uses. Is that a retail use, not a retail use? It's a personal service, but whatever. I think we ought to just discuss that. But number two, and Mr. Malley mentioned it, with this problem, that's, at least this is in the beginning, okay? It's not like they've been there for umpteen years like we had with the CrossFit on that site. I think like we had with the hula studio. We had with, that it just seems to be almost endemic to this
Particular.
complex
Yes.
and this particular property manager or whatever, okay, that lets people come in, leads them along. And I think we need to have a discussion about what can we do, and if there is anything at all that we can do. Because we end up getting the grief of the people coming in here after the fact, and we've got to do the dirty work of either putting them out or jockeying it around and trying to make it fit. And to me, it's almost a waste of, well, it's not a waste of time. It's incurring cost for the city, for the staff, and everybody involved, such that if there's any type, I mean, just any way to impose some type of a burden, a fine, or something on any property owners who, either misrepresent or do not at least, let their prospective tenants know that they have to go into the city to get a business license. And, if they don't do that, if they fail to notify their tenant and they let them in somehow, they get hooked with a fine. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, that's just something that maybe we could discuss, get on an agenda. And it would be citywide, wouldn't be just for them. But 'cause I talked to, I talked to my landlord, and I go, what do you do? He says, oh, anybody comes in, I send them. I tell them they got to go talk to the city before they even sign the lease. You got to go in there and you find out if you're going to be allowed to come in here. I think it would work, but you go in and make sure, satisfy yourself that you're okay before you come in here and sign a lease. And I mean, okay, that makes sense. That's the way it ought to be, because you can't. New people, I mean, young people especially, they may not know they need a business license. I mean, it makes sense to us because we're involved with it. And if you've been around long enough and had your own business, you know that. But, hey, the first go-around, you may not. And especially in an instance like this where, it could have been an honest mistake on the part of the broker. Maybe it's a little for both. But I don't know. This is like the third or fourth one for this site. Maybe we need to do something and look at it a little in depth, because I don't know that this is the only person we have trouble with. I'm sure there's lots.
But this is where a lot of it has happened, yeah.
Well, I mean, I just think maybe that's something for, if we could get something like that on an agenda where we can discuss that, maybe make recommendations to the council for some type of an ordinance or something that levies some type of a penalty for a property owner that fails to pass on the requirement that, hey, they're in a zone, you need to know what zone your property's in. And when potential tenants come up, you're going to have to demonstrate that you at least gave them, a notice that says, go talk to the city before you sign a lease, or something. I don't know. That,
It's like the first time, it's like, okay, maybe there was an honest mistake. But when it's the second time, I don't believe there's a mistake anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
From the
yeah.
landlord's standpoint.
I mean, from staff standpoint, we'll we'll certainly agendize it and bring it back. This is not a LoSal specific matter. It happens all over. And the challenge is how do you manage that? How do you force that issue and enforce that issue? Though I certainly empathize and sympathize with who we just heard from, the challenge is it's a private civil matter between those two parties, and unfortunately now this individual may have to take legal action against someone to get their deposit back, and it's really hard. I think the best thing that we can do is continue to be proactive in trying to inform and educate people on when they're starting up a new business, in hopes that they will go through those steps and procedures. But it's really hard. A lot of folks have great ideas. They want to start their business, but they haven't necessarily crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, not just with zoning issues, but, sometimes from a financial business plan standpoint, there's so many different factors.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, that, we could help them if they walk through the door.
Right.
But unfortunately, they're coming through the door too late. But yet, a property owner should know what his zone is, and should know, he doesn't have to know it all. I mean, hey, we change stuff so much that it's hard for them to keep up on it, I'm sure. But here's the deal. There should just at least be something that says, a cut sheet that they hand to a prospective tenant that part of this, the city of Los Alamitos does require a building license or a business license for all businesses located in the city. Before you sign a lease, you need to go to the city and make sure that your use will be an approved use, or is an approved use, before you sign the lease. Hand it to them, have them sign it, get a receipt for it, and then, or maybe and then that's it. I mean, after that, if they rent to them, it's on the guy. He should have come in here, he was told to come in here, he didn't come in here, or they did come in here and they ignored it and just open up anyway. Well then,
Might maybe be interesting to ask other cities what they've done in this
I
situation.
don't know, just something to me if we could.
But my guess is that when it gets to the attorneys, it gets to we really start looking at it, really we can't do anything, I don't think. You know what I mean? That's my guess. I don't know. But
I don't know either, but I mean, it just seems to be nice to take a stab at it and just see if there's just something that we can do. I mean, just because at this stage, it's between them. It's not, it's not a burden to us cost-wise. But the chiropractor, these other businesses that you're going to be asking to leave, hey, they're going to be in here, okay? And now we got everybody's time and all of this, and to me, who should pay that bill?
Okay, so I think before we go any deeper with this discussion, we need to just, if we can agendize it and notice it,
Right.
and then we can have a
All right, that's it.
better discussion in that forum. Okay, anything else? All right, and that brings us to adjournment. So, meeting adjourned.
Right.